Hi everyone, this is Jim. Welcome to this Blitz chess postmortem video. This is a postmortem of my Blitz chess game number 169. I was black here and my opponent played e4. And I play the Sicilian defense. Knight f3, d6. So we get into the open Sicilian with d4. C takes, knight takes, and now knight f6, hitting the e-pawn, forcing the knight to come out to c3 before the c-pawn can be moved. And now knight c6. This is the classical variation. So if we take a look at the opening book, back up, knight c6 is the second most popular choice here. G6 is the dragon, e6 is the Scheveningen, and a6 is the Najdorf. E6 is a bit dangerous because you have to worry about the immediate g4 there. It's a pretty dangerous attack. So knight c6. The move I'm most afraid of here after knight c6 is bishop g5. The problem is after, I'll show you that line. After bishop g5, e6 is a normal move, preventing immediate damage to your pawn structure. Queen d2, white's going to castle queenside. a6, you need to keep the knight out of this b5 square because of the pressure on e6 here. Castles queenside. And now bishop to d7 is the normal move here. A little bit strange. Bishop to d7, blocking the defense of the e-pawn. And then white can continue the attack with f4, b5, so attacking on both sides, and then bishop takes f6. And you take back with the pawn here. And the reason is you need to keep defending, and the reason you didn't play bishop e7 is so that if you take back with the bishop, this pawn here becomes weak and is often just lost immediately. I guess knight takes, bishop takes, and queen takes pawn would happen. So so anyway, you keep the bishop back on f8, and that means you have to take back here with either the pawn or the queen. Let's see, is there a tactical reason why you can't take with the queen? I guess e5 is strong here. So anyway, yeah, so the normal move is taking back with the pawn. So you have to be willing to, if you're playing the classical Sicilian, you have to be willing to play with this damaged pawn structure, and you know, it's making it difficult for your king to castle, although it's still possible. The knight could maneuver over here and it might be safe to castle there at some point. But your king is going to be stuck in the center for a while, and you have this funny pawn structure. So that's the downside of the classical Sicilian. So in some cases I've been playing the move h6 here to stop the bishop g5 line, but that's a bit slow. So if you want to play the classical Sicilian, probably the best move is just knight c6. And then a lot of times people don't play bishop g5, they play bishop c4 or one of these other moves. And this attack is not as dangerous. Bishop e3, we're still following normal moves here. Queen e2, allowing the rook to come to d8, putting pressure here. And now I castle, could have put an a6 there, but I'm going to play a6 on the next move. Again, you have to control the square b5, because when the knight comes to b5, it's just putting pressure on e6, which is always a weak pawn in this setup. And now my opponent tries attacking with g4. So the normal move here is bishop b3. The engine also likes a3. I guess the bishop could retreat all the way back to a2 if you play the move a3. So it's a game from here. You can see it's about even, slight edge to white maybe. But g4 is an interesting attacking idea that the engine is not particularly impressed here. Let's just look at the notation from here on, right out of the book. It says I should try and refute this by playing knight to e5, which is a good idea. Knight e5 hits the light squared bishop and asks it where it wants to go. And also it's no longer a target on c6, so you can get in the move b5, which you want to play anyway. So, you know, knight e5, bishop retreats, then b5, followed by bishop b7 and rook c8. Be a good plan for black here. I try the immediate queen c7. Oh, that was interesting. After a while, after thinking about it for a while, the chess engine decided it preferred knight takes d4 here. Another move you should always consider in these positions, just getting rid of this monster knight on d4. Yeah, knight e5 is still on the list too. Okay, queen c7, and so whatever advantage the computer thought black had is gone away now. h4, continuing the attack. And now, once again, it likes knight e5 or knight takes d4. So I guess these moves help to defuse the attack, which is obviously coming on the king side. I play b5, still with some edge for black. Bishop d3, knight b4, hitting the bishop. Didn't care for... Oh, it wants me to play b4 right away, kicking this knight. Yeah, this is often an idea in these positions. Clearing out the c-file and getting this knight away from some sensitive squares. If this knight is not in position to hop into into e5 here, the knight has been forced away, then you can often play the move d... No, I'm sorry. If the knight is not in position to hop into d5, then you can often play the move e5 and kick this knight away without suffering a piece jumping into d5 there. So b4, very logical move, kicking that knight. I play knight b4, going after the bishop, also a decent move. He plays g5, and now it says knight takes d3. Yeah, knight takes d3 happens with check, so I could go ahead and play that first. I don't have to move my knight away immediately. I was debating between, if you move the knight, you could have a choice of knight d7 or knight e8. And I really wasn't sure here. The problem with a knight on d7 is sometimes it blocks the defense of the queen along this row, whereas a knight on e8 contributes to the defense by supporting g7. And when this bishop moves out of the way, then the queen can also defend along the second rank. But it looks like now, after that move, it's not the most precise defense, and looks like white has the edge. So white continues on with h5. And now I grab the bishop, which is my plan. Queen takes d3. And here's my first real mistake. I think the game has been pretty even and back and forth. And it's a typical kind of mistake for me. I always want to try and stop the attack with some drastic measure. So I play this move f5, just trying to shut down this diagonal. But it's pretty interesting that it says e takes f5 or even knight takes f5 is possible. So let's take a look at this variation. Let's first of all, e takes f5. I was planning just to take back. And now knight d5. Yeah, this knight hopping into d5 is a problem. If that had been chased away earlier, you can see that this defense might have worked better, but knight d5 here. So now the queen has to move and defend the bishop. And what's next? Queen to b3, knight to c6. These are not the most obvious moves. Oh, queen b3, I guess that's pretty straightforward. You put the queen on this diagonal, threatening a horrible discovered check, so the king has to move. Then you can play h6, crashing through with the pawns. So, yeah, it looks like a pretty strong attack. It's white has not yet won material. And I have shut down this diagonal, which is what I planned. I'm playing f4. I was trying to shut down this diagonal, and I've succeeded. But white has switched his attentions to another diagonal, and also this dark square diagonal is looking pretty dangerous. So after g6, knight takes e7, queen takes e7, knight c6. Yeah, it's just a long-term pressure. This bishop, after the knight comes out of the way, the bishop is going to get this d4 square, and that's going to be pretty devastating. Okay, so the answer is this f5 move that I played is not really playable. So instead of f5, I should play the move b4 here, force his knight away, and then consider. So let's look at a good defense here. b4, knight c to e2, and now bishop e7. And if he pushes on with the pawns, king b1 is an interesting prophylactic move. f4, g6. Say f4, just trying to increase the steam on the pawn roller. a5, just continuing to ignore that. King b1. Let's say he doesn't do that, and he just pushes on with h6. And I guess the thing is, if I don't allow any exchanges over here, I just have the option of blocking his pawn pushes, so h6 g6 does open up this dark squared diagonal, but maybe there's no immediate way for him to take advantage of it, and bishop to a6. Or perhaps I can trade off enough pieces to survive that way. Okay, so that's the answer. In this position, rather than playing f5, I should continue with my queenside play and just hold back and not move these pawns until absolutely necessary. I think that's true in many cases, so that's a good tip to keep in mind. When you start moving these pawns in front of your king, even in these menacing situations, you're often likely to be creating more weaknesses by moving those pawns and making your situation worse. Okay, so I played f5, and he played g takes f6, so not the best response, and I'm still in the game. Bishop takes, and the game continues. Rook d to g1. He's still got some pressure here. So my even though it's rated about even, it's still a bit tricky to play for black here. e5. Oh, it's black's turn. Yeah, I play e5 here, and he moves the knight to f3. I was a little bit worried about knight f5. But it says knight d takes b5 is an interesting idea here. So going this way, sacrificing the knight. Say if I take, the idea is queen d5 check. Say king goes here, and queen takes a8. Oh, the rook in the corner. Totally missed that. Okay, let's back up. So the idea with this knight sack is just to clear a line so the queen can play d5 check. Okay, so that's pretty interesting. So after knight takes on d5, threatening queen here check, I need to defend my rook in some way. So queen c6, yeah, defends the rook, but he's won a pawn, and he's in good shape. Okay, so that would have been a good answer to e5. He played knight f3. I played bishop e6 and knight g5. All pretty logical moves, and continuing in this tense struggle with about an even chances. Rook h g8, doubling up on the g file. And I'm just was trying to exchange off some pieces there to reduce the pressure. Rook f7. And defend, of course. And now here's another tricky moment. I finally play the move b4 here, and the computer does approve of that eventually. Spent a long time thinking about just taking that pawn, but that's pretty dangerous. After the bishop comes here, there's this pressure on e6. So I didn't really like that. So I played b4 first, kicking that knight away, and thinking that if the knight hopped into d5, I would take it, and this is what happened. And now he has to take back with a pawn, and that alleviates the pressure on e6 because it blocks the queen. So that's a handy trick. And then I play a knight move to attack his rook. He went to g4, and now I grab the pawn. And now he should take back with the rook and still have a decent game. Still an edge for white, in fact, because still got attacking chances with even material. But he took back with the bishop, and now that allows knight f2. He just missed this fork idea. So the queen has to move. I was thinking about bishop takes. I had forgotten that I'd blocked this line, so bishop takes is no longer really playable here. I just take the bishop. So I was doing this calculation that was completely bogus during the game, but it did encourage me to play knight f2 anyway. I decided it was still okay, and so the queen moves and I grab the rook, and now I'm up the exchange, and there's just not enough compensation for white. Plays b3, and now b3 is once again, it's an illustration of this idea that when you move pawns in front of your king, you're creating a weakness. And the weakness here is the c3 square. So I can move my queen to c3, which is defending indirectly this pawn on g2, and at the same time it's threatening his queen. And if the queen moves away, it's difficult for him to defend the bishop. So let's put it on the board. Queen c3. This bishop is under attack, so the queen has to move somewhere that defends that bishop. So if it went, for example, to here, queen f2, then rook e8 or rook e7 is dangerous. Just kind of overloading the position. Sorry, that's not it. Rook e8, say. You're threatening to come in here with that's a mate threat, or at least winning the queen, and so it's pretty much all over at that point. So he really has nothing better. Queen e4 maybe he could have tried than taking the queen, but now this loses the bishop at least. If he moves the rook, for example, the engine suggests rook g3 is the best move. I would take the bishop, and then he would take the pawn, and he's he's gotten rid of the mate threat, but but he's down a rook, and certainly going to lose the game. So after bishop takes c3, he played bishop to g3, and this is all over. I play rook to f1 check, and he resigns because there's no way to stop the mate. It's he can interpose the bishop, but then rook takes e1 is mate. So pretty tense, exciting game. Hope you guys enjoyed that. Leave any comments you have in the section below, and I will see you again soon. Bye.